Laura Bennett stepped off the transport shuttle and into the vast hangar of the Galactic Defense Academy. The metal floor beneath her boots felt strange. Everything felt strange. Lighter somehow. Like she was walking on a trampoline instead of solid ground. She adjusted the strap of her duffel bag on her shoulder and took a deep breath. The air tasted recycled and thin. Around her, dozens of other cadets moved through the hangar in organized lines. But none of them looked remotely human. There were tall beings with blue skin and extra joints in their arms. Short creatures covered in what looked like scales. A group of floating jellyfish-like aliens drifted past, communicating in pulses of colored light. Laura had studied the major species of the Galactic Coalition during her 6-month journey here, but seeing them in person was completely different. She was alone. The only human in a sea of aliens. A few cadets glanced at her as they passed. Their expressions were hard to read on faces so different from her own, but Laura caught the general feeling. Curiosity. Confusion. Some looked almost amused. One cadet, a reptilian being with orange scales, pointed at her and said something to his companion in a clicking language. They both made a sound that might have been laughter. Laura kept walking. She had expected this. Earth had only joined the Galactic Coalition 5 years ago. Humans were newcomers. Primitives by galactic standards. Her home planet was classified as a death world, whatever that meant. Most species considered it too dangerous for colonization. She had fought for 2 years just to get accepted into this academy. She was not going to let a few stairs bother her now. The hangar led into a massive corridor with ceilings at least 50 feet high. Everything was built on a scale meant to accommodate species of all sizes. Laura noticed the gravity again as she walked. Her steps felt too easy. Too bouncy. She had to concentrate to avoid looking like she was skipping. Attention. New cadets, form lines by species designation. The voice boomed through the corridor. Laura turned to see the source and her breath caught. The instructor was enormous. At least 9 feet tall with 4 muscular arms, each one thick as a tree trunk. His skin was a dark purple color, covered in natural armor plating. His face had sharp angles and a mouth full of teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. 2 small horns curved back from his forehead. He wore the dark uniform of an academy instructor with badges that indicated high rank. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd of cadets with obvious displeasure. "I am Instructor Drex'kan," he announced. "For the next year, I will be responsible for your combat training. Some of you will succeed. Most of you will fail. This is acceptable. The Galactic Defense Force only accepts the best." Laura watched as cadets shuffled into groups. There were clear sections for each species. She saw Krellians gathering together. A cluster of Zenthari with their insect-like features. The tall blue-skinned Valorians formed their own line. Laura stood alone. Drex'kan's 4 eyes eventually found her. He stared for a long moment. Then he moved toward her with heavy steps that made the floor vibrate slightly. "You," he said, looking down at her from his towering height. "What species are you?" "Human, sir," Laura replied, keeping her voice steady. "From Earth." Drex'kan's mouth parts moved in what might have been a frown. "Human? Yes. I was informed we would be receiving one of your kind this cycle." He did not sound pleased about it. "You are aware that humans have never attended this academy before?" "Yes, sir." "You are aware that your species has minimal combat experience by galactic standards? No experience with space warfare? No exposure to advanced weapons systems?" "I'm aware we're new to the coalition, sir." "New," Drex'kan repeated. He made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it was not friendly. "Your planet only achieved basic fusion power 3 of your generations ago. You still use projectile weapons. Your military technology is centuries behind even the most basic coalition standards." Several nearby cadets had stopped to watch the exchange. Laura felt their eyes on her. "I didn't come here to represent human technology, sir," Laura said. "I came here to learn." Drex'kan circled her slowly, his 4 arms crossed. "You come from a heavy gravity world, yes? A death world classification. Earth has standard gravity for its size, sir." "Standard for a death world?" Drex'kan corrected. "Tell me, human, can you even lift a standard coalition rifle? They are designed for species with proper strength. Multiple limbs. Not fragile primates who evolved swinging from trees." Laura felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her expression neutral. "I can lift a rifle, sir." "Can you?" Drex'kan stopped in front of her again. "We shall see. This week, all cadets will undergo physical qualification trials. You will be tested on strength, endurance, reaction time, and weapons proficiency. At the end of the week, there will be a final trial. He paused, and Laura noticed several cadets were now openly watching. The KX-47 qualification, Drex'kan continued. For 300 years, this academy has used the KX-47 plasma rifle as the ultimate test of a cadet's physical capability. It was designed by the Krathan military. My people. It weighs 40 of your Earth kilograms. It requires immense strength to lift, let alone fire accurately. It was built for warriors with 4 arms and dense muscle structure. Laura did quick math in her head. 40 kilograms was about 88 pounds. In the history of this academy, Drex'kan said, only 12 species have successfully completed the KX-47 qualification. All of them possess either multiple limbs or significantly enhanced strength compared to baseline biology. Do you understand what I am telling you, human? You're telling me it's difficult, sir? I am telling you it is impossible for someone like you, Drex'kan said flatly. I have reviewed human physiology data. You have 2 arms. Standard bone density for a carbon-based life form. Muscle structure that relies on inefficient chemical reactions. You may believe your death world made you strong, but by galactic standards, humans are weak. The corridor had gone quiet. Every cadet nearby was watching now. Laura met Drex'kan's 4-eyed stare and did not look away. Permission to attempt the qualification anyway, sir? Something flickered across Drex'kan's face. Surprise maybe. Or annoyance. You will attempt all the trials along with the other cadets, he said. I do not give special treatment. You will likely injure yourself during the KX-47 test, but perhaps that will teach you proper respect for galactic military standards. Consider it a valuable lesson. He turned away from her and addressed the full group of cadets again. You have 5 days, he announced. 5 days to prepare your bodies and minds. On the 6th day you will face the KX-47. Succeed and you continue your training here. Fail and you return to your home worlds. Dismissed. The cadets began moving toward the dormitory sections. Laura picked up her duffel bag and followed. She noticed the bouncy feeling in her step again. The lightness. 40 kilograms, she thought. In this low gravity. She smiled slightly as she walked. This was going to be interesting. The first training session began at dawn. Or what passed for dawn on the academy station. Laura woke to artificial lights brightening slowly in the dormitory. Around her, other cadets stirred in their bunks. Some made grumbling sounds. Others were already moving with military precision. Laura sat up and immediately felt it again. That lightness. Like her body weighed 20 pounds less than it should. She had barely slept, her mind too active, but she felt energized anyway. The training grounds were massive. An indoor arena the size of 3 football fields with obstacles, climbing walls, and equipment scattered throughout. Instructor Drex'kan stood at the center, his 4 arms crossed, waiting. Physical assessment, he announced as cadets assembled. You will complete the standard obstacle course. Climb the vertical wall. Cross the balance beams. Navigate the strength stations. Your time and performance will be recorded. He gestured with 2 of his arms toward the course. Begin. Cadets scattered to different starting points. Laura jogged toward the nearest obstacle, a series of platforms she had to jump between. The first jump would have been challenging on Earth. Here she barely had to try. She sailed across the gap easily, landing soft. Too easy, she thought. She had to recalibrate her strength for every movement. The next obstacle was a rope climb. 30 feet straight up. Laura grabbed the rope and pulled herself upward. Her arms felt strong. Too strong. She was moving faster than she meant to, practically flying up the rope. She reached the top in seconds. Below, she saw a Krellian cadet struggling with the same climb, its 3 arms working hard to make progress. Laura moved through the course, adjusting to the lower gravity with each obstacle. The balance beam was tricky because she felt too light, like a strong wind might blow her off. But she made it across. The climbing wall came next. On Earth, this would have taken her 5 minutes of hard effort. Here she scaled it in under 2. She dropped down from the final obstacle and checked the timer. 4 minutes, 18 seconds for the full course. Drex'kan was watching. His 4 eyes tracked her as she walked past, but he said nothing. The second day brought strength testing. Cadets had to lift weighted bars, carry heavy objects across distances, and complete resistance exercises. Laura approached the first station where a thick metal bar rested on supports. A digital display showed the weight. 60 kilograms. She gripped the bar and lifted. It came up smooth and easy. She held it overhead, arms steady. Again, Drex'kan's voice came from behind her. 10 repetitions. Laura completed 10 overhead presses without strain. Her muscles barely burned. The weight felt manageable. Light even. Drex'kan made a notation on his data pad. Beginner's adrenaline, he muttered. It will fade. But it did not fade. Day 3 was endurance testing. Running laps around the training ground. Laura kept pace with cadets who had 4 legs. She ran for 40 minutes straight before Drex'kan called time. Her breathing was elevated but controlled. On Earth, that same run would have destroyed her. She saw Drex'kan speaking to another instructor, a slim alien with silver skin. They both glanced at her. Drex'kan's expression looked annoyed. Day 4 brought hand-to-hand combat drills. Laura partnered with a Valerian cadet named Tesh who stood 7 feet tall. The drill was simple. Grappling. Testing strength and balance. Tesh clearly expected an easy match. He was twice her size. They locked arms. Tesh pushed. Laura set her feet and pushed back. The Valorian's eyes widened as Laura held her ground. She could feel his strength, but in this gravity her earth-trained muscles compensated. She twisted her hip and used his momentum against him. Tesh stumbled. "Lucky," he said in broken standard language. They went again. This time Laura was ready for his strength. She ducked under his reach, grabbed his arm, and used a throw technique she had learned in basic training. Tesh hit the mat hard. Drex'kan was there instantly. "Primitive fighting techniques," he announced to the watching cadets. "Effective against untrained opponents perhaps, but this is not a brawl. This is military combat." Laura helped Tesh to his feet. The Valerian looked at her with new respect in his eyes. That evening, Laura sat alone in the mess hall eating something that was supposed to be protein but tasted like wet cardboard. Other cadets gave her space. She was still the outsider. Still the strange human from the death world. But she noticed some of them watching her differently now. Not with amusement. With curiosity. Day 5 arrived. The final day before the KX-47 qualification. Drex'kan gathered all cadets in the main training hall. The room fell silent as he walked to a large secured case at the front. 4 armed guards stood nearby. The case was marked with warning symbols. "Today you will see the weapon that will determine your fate tomorrow," Drex'kan announced. He entered a code on the case. It hissed open. Inside, resting on a cushioned platform, was the rifle. The KX-47 was massive. Easily 5 feet long with a thick barrel and heavy power core visible through transparent casing. The stock was wide, designed for multiple grips. Laura could see 4 distinct hand positions along its length. The weapon looked brutal. Functional. Built for war. Drex'kan lifted it with all 4 of his arms. Even for him it looked heavy. He held it up for everyone to see. "This rifle," he said, "has ended the Academy dreams of more cadets than any other test. It weighs 40 kilograms. For context, that is more than half the body weight of some species in this room. It was designed for Kraten warriors. My people. We have 4 arms, each capable of lifting twice what a human arm can manage." He adjusted his grip, showing the proper firing stance. 4 arms distributed the weight. 2 on the main grip. 1 supporting the barrel. 1 stabilizing the stock. "The recoil is significant," Drex'kan continued. "The power core generates heat that can burn unprotected skin. The vibration from firing can cause muscle damage if you are not properly braced. This is not a training weapon. This is a true combat rifle used in active warfare across the coalition." He set the rifle back in its case with care. In 300 years of Academy history, only 12 species have succeeded in firing this weapon accurately. The Kraten. The Morvellian Titans. The Gresh with their 6 limbs. The Valerian elite, though barely. Species with natural advantages. Multiple arms. Dense muscle structure. Exoskeletal support. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd of cadets. "Tomorrow each of you will attempt to fire 5 rounds at targets 200 meters distant. You must hit at least 3 targets to pass. Most of you will fail to even lift the rifle. Some of you will injure yourselves trying. This is expected. This is the purpose of the test. To separate the capable from the weak." His gaze found Laura in the crowd. "For some species this test is merely difficult," he said. "For others, it is completely impossible. Know your limitations. There is no shame in recognizing what your biology cannot achieve." The dismissal came shortly after. Cadets filed out, many of them talking nervously about the next day. Laura stayed behind looking at the case. The rifle rested inside, dark and imposing. 40 kilograms. 88 pounds. In 0.6 Earth gravity. She did the math in her head again. That would feel like about 53 pounds on Earth. She had carried heavier packs during basic training. Much heavier. Drex'kan noticed her still standing there. Having second thoughts, human? No, sir, Laura said. Just thinking. Thinking will not help you tomorrow. Your arms are not designed for this. Accept that now and save yourself the injury. Laura nodded politely and left. But she was smiling. The amphitheater was packed. Laura had not expected an audience, but apparently the KX-47 qualification was a major event at the academy. Hundreds of cadets filled the tiered seating, along with instructors and even some visiting military officials. Everyone wanted to see who would pass and who would fail. The testing ground was set up in the center. 5 targets stood 200 meters away, each one marked with glowing circles. The rifle case sat on a reinforced table with the guards nearby. A medical team waited at the side with equipment ready. Laura sat with the other cadets waiting their turn. Her heart was beating fast but steady. She kept her breathing controlled. She had slept well despite the nerves. Her body felt good, strong, ready. Drex'kan stood at the center of the amphitheater, his 4 arms gesturing as he explained the rules one final time. 5 shots. 3 hits minimum to pass. You may use any stance or grip your biology allows. If you cannot lift the rifle, you fail. If you drop the rifle, you fail. If you injure yourself, you fail and will be removed from the academy permanently. Are there any questions? Silence filled the amphitheater. Good. We begin. The first cadet was a Morvellian. Tall and broad with thick arms covered in natural armor plating. The creature approached the rifle with confidence. It lifted the KX-47 with both arms, muscles straining but holding steady. It took aim and fired. The rifle roared. A bolt of blue plasma shot across the amphitheater and slammed into the first target dead center. The Morvellian fired 4 more times. 4 more hits. Perfect score. The crowd cheered. Drex'kan nodded approval. Acceptable. Next. A Krellian cadet went next. 3 arms gripped the rifle. It managed to lift and fire, but the shots went wild. Only 1 hit. The cadet's arms were shaking badly by the end. It failed. A Gresh came forward, its 6 limbs distributing the rifle's weight easily. 5 shots. 4 hits. It passed. One by one, cadets attempted the test. Some succeeded. Many failed. Laura watched a Zenthari cadet struggle to even lift the rifle. Its insect-like arms could not get proper grip. The creature tried 3 times before giving up, mandibles clicking in frustration. A small mammalian species that looked like a bipedal otter could not budge the rifle at all. It failed immediately. The Valerian cadet Tesh approached. Laura had fought him in training. He was strong. He gripped the rifle with both hands and lifted it. Barely. His arms shook. Sweat formed on his blue skin. He fired once. The recoil nearly tore the rifle from his hands. He steadied himself and fired again. And again. 3 shots total before his strength gave out. 2 hits. He failed. Tesh walked past Laura on his way back to the seats. He gave her a small nod. Good luck, the gesture seemed to say. You will need it. More cadets went. More failures than passes. The medical team had to help 2 cadets who pulled muscles trying to control the rifle. One dropped it on their foot and had to be carried out. Laura counted the attempts. 27 cadets had gone. 12 had passed. 15 had failed. Cadet Laura Bennett, Drex'kan's voice echoed through the amphitheater. Human. You are next. The crowd shifted. Laura heard whispers ripple through the seats. She stood and walked down to the testing ground. Every eye in the amphitheater followed her. She felt the weight of their attention but pushed it aside. She approached the table where the rifle rested. Up close it looked even more massive. The barrel was thick as her arm. The power core glowed with contained energy. The grip positions were spaced far apart, designed for Drex'kan's 4 arms, not her 2. Drex'kan stood nearby, watching her with his 4 eyes. You may withdraw if you wish, he said quietly. There is no dishonor in recognizing your limitations. I didn't come here to withdraw, sir, Laura replied. Then proceed. And try not to injure yourself. The medical team is busy today. Laura heard a few laughs from the crowd. She ignored them. She stepped up to the table and placed her hands on the rifle. The metal was cool under her palms. She felt the weight immediately. Heavy. But not impossible. She adjusted her grip. Both hands on the rifle now. Her right hand on the main grip where Drex'kan's lower right arm would go. Her left hand further up on the barrel support. She took a breath. Then she lifted. The rifle came up off the table. Smooth. Clean. No struggle. The amphitheater went dead silent. Laura brought the rifle to her shoulder, adjusting her stance. The weight felt substantial but manageable. like carrying a full pack during a long march. She had done that hundreds of times on Earth. In full gravity. This was lighter. She glanced at the targets. 200 meters. Standard shooting distance. She had qualified on rifles at 300 meters back home. Drex'kan was staring at her. His mandibles hung slightly open. "You can hold it," he said, and it sounded like an accusation. "But holding and firing are different matters. The recoil alone will." "Permission to fire, sir?" Laura interrupted. Drex'kan blinked all four eyes. "Granted." Laura lined up the first shot. The rifle had basic sights, nothing fancy. She controlled her breathing. Squeezed the trigger. The KX-47 roared. Blue plasma screamed across the amphitheater. The recoil kicked back into her shoulder hard, but her stance absorbed it. Her boots stayed planted. The target lit up. Direct hit. The crowd gasped. Laura adjusted her aim. Second target. Breathe. Squeeze. Another roar. Another hit. She could feel the rifle heating up in her hands. The power core was cycling energy, making the weapon vibrate. She tightened her grip. Third shot. It. Fourth shot. It. The crowd was making noise now. Shocked murmurs. She heard someone shout something in an alien language. Fifth shot. The final target exploded with blue light as the plasma bolt struck dead center. 5 for 5. Laura lowered the rifle carefully and set it back on the table. Her shoulders ached slightly from the recoil, but nothing serious. She rolled them once to loosen the muscles. She turned to face Drex'kan. The instructor was frozen. All four of his arms hung at his sides. His mouth was open. His eyes were wide. Behind him, the entire amphitheater had erupted. Cadets were standing, shouting, pointing. Some were making gestures that Laura assumed meant disbelief in their various cultures. Drex'kan finally found his voice. "That is not possible." "But I just did it, sir," Laura said simply. "You have 2 arms. You are human. Your species is weak by every biological metric we have measured. You should not be able to lift that rifle, let alone fire it accurately. Let alone absorb the recoil without injury." Laura shrugged. It was heavy. But not too heavy. One of the other instructors, the silver-skinned alien, rushed down from the stands. "Check the rifle," he demanded. "Check if it was loaded properly. Check the weight calibration." 2 guards opened the rifle and examined it. They checked the power core, the weight distribution, everything. "All standard, sir," one guard reported. "Full combat load. 40 kilograms exactly." The silver instructor looked at Laura like she was some kind of trick. Some kind of illusion. Drex'kan slowly walked closer to her. He towered over her, his massive frame casting a shadow. "Explain this," he said. "Explain how a human accomplished what species twice your size cannot do." Laura met his gaze steadily. "You said Earth is a death world, sir. Maybe you should have asked what that actually means." The amphitheater was still buzzing with noise. Cadets were arguing with each other. Instructors were pulling up data on tablets. The medical team stood unused, looking confused. Drex'kan stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the rifle. Then back at her. 5 for 5, he said quietly. "No cadet has scored perfect on their first attempt in 18 years. Does that mean I pass, sir?" Drex'kan's expression was unreadable. Finally he nodded once. "You passed, Cadet Bennett. Return to your seat." Laura saluted and walked back up into the stands. As she climbed the steps, cadets moved aside to let her through. Some reached out to touch her arm as she passed, as if checking that she was real. She sat down in her original spot. Tesh was sitting nearby. The big Valerian looked at her with something like awe. "How?" he asked in his broken standard. Laura smiled. "Practice." Laura had not planned to show off. She really had not. The plan was simple. Lift the rifle. Fire 5 shots. Pass the test. Keep her head down and continue training. But as she sat back down in her seat after her turn, something bothered her. She could feel it in her muscles, in her bones. The rifle had been heavy, yes, but not nearly as heavy as everyone seemed to think it should be. She had used both hands because that was proper form. That was how she was trained. But if she was being honest with herself, she probably did not need both hands. The thought stuck in her mind as she watched the remaining cadets take their turns. Most failed. A few passed with obvious struggle. None of them made it look easy. Drex'kan stood at the center of the amphitheater, his expression dark. He kept glancing up at Laura between candidates. His 4 eyes narrowed each time. The final cadet finished. 3 hits out of 5. A technical pass, but barely. Drex'kan raised 2 of his arms for silence. The crowd noise died down. Testing is complete, he announced. 15 cadets have passed the qualification. 18 have failed. Those who failed will be reassigned to non-combat roles or dismissed from the academy entirely. Those who passed will continue to advanced weapons training. He paused and his eyes found Laura again. However, I have concerns about one result. The human cadet's performance was unusual. Unprecedented, in fact. Before I certify her passage, I want to verify the result was not a statistical anomaly. Laura felt her stomach tighten. Was he going to make her retake the test? Drex'kan gestured toward her. Cadet Bennett. Return to the firing line. The amphitheater went quiet again. Laura stood and walked back down. Whispers followed her. She reached the center and stood at attention. Sir? Your performance was acceptable, Drex'kan said slowly. But I noticed something during your test. You fired exactly 5 rounds. The minimum required. You stopped immediately after meeting the standard. Yes, sir. That was the requirement. Indeed. But I wonder, was that because 5 shots was all you could manage? Or was it simply because that was all that was required? Laura saw where this was going. I could have fired more, sir. Could you? Drex'kan's tone carried challenge. Or are you simply unwilling to admit your limits? Perhaps those 5 shots exhausted your strength and you are too proud to say so. Several instructors had gathered nearby, watching the exchange. The silver-skinned one from before stood with his arms crossed. Laura recognized the test. They were pushing her, seeing if she would break. I was not exhausted, sir, Laura said clearly. Prove it, Drex'kan replied. Fire 5 more rounds. Right now. Show us this was not beginner's luck or adrenaline. Laura nodded. Yes, sir. She turned to the rifle table. The guards had reloaded the weapon after the last cadet. She approached and put her hands on the rifle again. The metal was still warm from the previous firings. She lifted it the same way as before. Both hands. Proper stance. She brought it to her shoulder. Then she stopped. She looked at the rifle. Felt its weight. Did the math one more time in her head. 40 kilograms. In 0.6 gravity. That was about 53 pounds of effective weight. She had done one-arm dumbbell exercises with 60 pounds back on Earth. 4 repetitions. This was lighter. Laura made a decision. She shifted her left hand off the barrel. She adjusted her right hand grip slightly. Then she held the rifle one-handed. Her right arm extended, supporting the full weight of the weapon by herself. The amphitheater exploded with noise. Cadets jumped to their feet. Instructors shouted. Someone screamed something that her translator could not parse. Drex'kan's mandibles dropped open so wide Laura thought they might fall off. What are you doing? He demanded. You wanted proof, sir, Laura said calmly. I'm providing it. The rifle was heavier in one hand. Obviously. Her shoulder and arm muscles engaged fully to support it. She could feel the strain. But it was manageable. Like holding a plank position in the gym. Uncomfortable but sustainable. She raised the rifle to firing position, one-handed, her left arm hanging loose at her side. You cannot possibly fire accurately like that, Drex'kan said. The recoil will break your arm. Permission to fire, sir? Drex'kan looked like he wanted to refuse. But too many eyes were watching. Too many witnesses. He could not back down now without looking foolish. Granted, he said through clenched teeth. Laura aimed at the first target. She braced her core. Locked her shoulder. Squeezed the trigger. The KX-47 roared. The recoil slammed into her arm. Hard. Much harder than with 2 hands. Her entire shoulder absorbed the impact. But her stance held. Her boots stayed planted. The plasma bolt screamed downrange and punched through the target center. Perfect hit. The crowd was roaring now. Laura could not hear individual voices anymore. Just noise. Pure shock and disbelief. She adjusted her aim. Second target. Her arm was burning. The muscles were working hard. But she had done harder things. She had done pull-ups with a 50-pound vest on Earth. She had carried wounded soldiers in training exercises. This was just weight. Just physics. She fired again. Third shot. The rifle was heating up badly now. The power core was cycling fast. She could feel it vibrating in her hand. Her palm was getting hot even through her glove. Fourth shot. Her shoulder was screaming at her. Her arm was shaking slightly. But she controlled it. Breathed through it. 5 more seconds. Just 5 more seconds. Fifth shot. She squeezed the trigger and the rifle bucked one final time. The plasma bolt struck the last target perfectly. 5 more hits. 10 total. All one-handed. Laura lowered the rifle and set it on the table. She shook out her right arm. It felt like jelly. Her shoulder was going to be sore tomorrow. But nothing was damaged. Nothing was broken. She turned to face Drex'kan. The instructor was frozen again. But this time his expression was different. Not just shock. Something else. Fear maybe. Or respect. Laura could not tell. The silver instructor rushed forward with a tablet. Computer, display grouping analysis for Cadet Bennett's 10 shots. A holographic display appeared in the air. It showed the target pattern. All 10 shots clustered in a tight circle in the center. The computer calculated the spread. 8.3 centimeters, the silver instructor read aloud. That is the tightest grouping in Academy records in the last 50 years. The amphitheater went insane. Cadets were chanting something. Laura's translator caught fragments. Impossible. Death world. How? Drex'kan stepped closer to her. His forearms were trembling slightly. You fired a 40-kilogram combat rifle one-handed. 10 times. With better accuracy than trained Kratin warriors achieve with all 4 arms. Yes, sir. This should not be possible. But it happened, sir. Drex'kan looked at the rifle. Then at his own 4 arms. Then back at Laura with her 2. What are you? He asked quietly. Just humans, sir. No. Humans are supposed to be weak. Fragile. Your own diplomatic reports described your species as physically inferior to most coalition members. Your military assessments listed humans as suitable only for support roles. Not combat. Never combat. Laura allowed herself a small smile. Maybe those reports were wrong, sir. Drex'kan was silent for a long moment. The crowd noise continued around them, but Laura stayed focused on the instructor. Finally, Drex'kan straightened. He raised all 4 arms for silence. The amphitheater gradually quieted. The test is concluded, he announced. Cadet Bennett has not only passed. She has set a new Academy record. His voice carried across the space. This session is dismissed. Cadets began filing out, but many stopped to stare at Laura as they passed. Some reached out to touch her as if she were some kind of legend. Tesh appeared beside her. The big Valerian looked down at her with wonder. You are very strong for something so small, he said. Laura laughed. Thanks. I think. As the amphitheater emptied, Laura stayed behind for a moment. She looked at the rifle one more time. Such a simple thing, really. Just metal and energy. Weight and physics. But to everyone here it was impossible. She smiled and headed for the exit. Her arm was definitely going to be sore tomorrow. It was totally worth it. The summons came 2 hours after the test. A messenger drone found Laura in the dormitory and projected a holographic message. Instructor Drex'kan requested her presence in his office immediately. Laura changed into a fresh uniform and made her way through the academy corridors. Other cadets stared as she passed. Some nodded with respect. Others whispered and pointed. Word had spread fast. Drex'kan's office was on the upper level of the training complex. Laura had never been inside. She pressed the door chime and waited. Enter, came the deep voice from within. The office was sparse. Military. A desk, some chairs designed for various body types, and walls covered with weapons from different cultures. Laura recognized a few human rifles among them. Old models from Earth's various nations. Drex'kan sat behind his desk, all 4 arms resting on the surface. 2 other instructors stood nearby. The silver-skinned one and a third that looked like a walking crystal formation. Cadet Bennett, Drex'kan said. Sit. Laura sat in a chair that was slightly too large for her frame. Drex'kan studied her for a moment. I have reviewed the test recordings 17 times. I have checked the rifle specifications. I have verified the gravity settings in the amphitheater. Everything was standard. Regulation. And yet you accomplished something that should be biologically impossible for your species. I understand it looks strange, sir, Laura began. Strange? The silver instructor interrupted. It is beyond strange. It contradicts every assessment we have of human capabilities. Your own government's reports listed humans as having average strength, average endurance, limited combat potential. They recommended humans for technical roles. Support positions. Not frontline combat. Laura nodded slowly. Those reports were written by politicians, sir. Not soldiers. They did not understand what Earth actually is. Drex'kan leaned forward. Explain. And be specific. I want to understand how this is possible. Laura took a breath. You keep calling Earth a death world. But I don't think you understand what that means. Not really. You see it as a classification. A label. But for humans it is just home. She stood and walked to the window. Outside she could see the curve of the station and the stars beyond. Earth has 1.0 gravity, she continued. Standard by your measurements. But standard for what? The Academy station runs at 0.6 Earth gravity. Most coalition worlds I studied range from 0.4 to 0.7. Your homeworld, sir, runs at 0.5. Drex'kan's eyes narrowed. Our gravity is sufficient for producing strong warriors. I'm not arguing that, sir. But I've been living in 0.6 gravity for 6 days now. Do you know what that feels like to me? Laura turned to face them. It feels like I'm on the moon. Like I could jump over buildings. Like every movement takes half the effort it should. She walked back to the chair but did not sit. That rifle weighs 40 kilograms here. In this gravity. On Earth, that same rifle would weigh about 67 kilograms. And I've trained with equipment that heavy since I was 16 years old. The crystal instructor made a sound like wind chimes. Impossible. That would damage developing bones. It would damage your bones, maybe, Laura replied. But human bones evolved under Earth gravity. Our skeletal structure is denser than most species in the coalition. Our muscles attach differently. Our cardiovascular system is built to pump blood against stronger gravity every single day. She held up her arm. When I do a push-up on Earth, I'm lifting my full body weight against 1 g of force. When I run, every step is a fight against gravity. When I carry equipment, I'm doing it under conditions that would exhaust most coalition species in minutes. Drex'kan was listening intently now. His forearms were still. You said Earth is a death world, Laura continued. Do you know why? It's not just gravity. Our atmosphere is thick. That's. Breathing on Earth is like breathing underwater compared to most coalition worlds. Our oxygen levels are higher. Our air pressure crushes anything not adapted to it. She started pacing now, the words flowing. Our planet has extreme temperature swings. Massive storms. Earthquakes. Volcanoes. Our oceans have creatures that could eat most sentient species whole. Our land predators evolved alongside us. We didn't just survive Earth. We conquered it. We became the apex predator of a world that was actively trying to kill us every single day. The room was silent. So when you put me in 0.6 gravity and hand me an 88-pound rifle and tell me it's impossible to lift, Laura said, meeting Drex'kan's eyes, forgive me, sir, but that's just a Tuesday workout back home. Drex'kan sat back in his chair. All 4 arms moved to his chin in a thinking posture. You are saying every human has this advantage? Every human grows up under Earth gravity, yes, sir. Some are stronger than others, obviously. But compared to most coalition species, she shrugged. We're all operating at a significant advantage in reduced gravity environments. The silver instructor was typing rapidly on a tablet. I'm pulling Earth's military records. Historical combat data. If what you're saying is true, then humans should have dominated warfare on their own planet. We did, Laura said quietly. For 10,000 years, humans fought each other in the worst conditions imaginable. We invented weapons to kill each other more efficiently. We developed tactics and strategies in terrain that would hospitalize most aliens. We are very, very good at warfare. We just never had anyone else to fight until we met you. Drex'kan stood slowly. He walked around his desk and approached Laura. He towered over her, his massive frame easily twice her size. But for the first time he did not look down at her with contempt. I owe you an apology, Cadet Bennett, he said formally. I judged your species based on incomplete data. I assumed weakness where there was actually strength. I dismissed you because you looked different from what I expected a warrior to be. Laura stood at attention. Apology accepted, sir. More than that, Drex'kan continued. I was wrong about human potential. If one human can achieve what you did, then humanity deserves a place in the defense force. A real place. Not support roles. Combat roles. The crystal instructor chimed in. We should contact the Coalition Military Command. Fast-track human recruitment. If even a fraction of humans possess these capabilities, they would be valuable assets. More than valuable, the silver instructor added, still reading his tablet. According to this data, humans have been fighting organized warfare since before most coalition species developed written language. They have military history going back thousands of years. Combat experience across every terrain type. And now we learn they've been training under twice our standard gravity the entire time. Drex'kan turned to Laura. How many humans are like you? How many could pass the academy trials? Laura thought about her training class back on Earth. The soldiers she served with. Honestly, sir? Most of them. Any human who completes basic military training on Earth could probably do what I did today. Some could do it better. Better? Drex'kan's voice rose. You set a 50-year record. I'm good, sir. But I'm not special. There are human soldiers who could probably fire that rifle one-handed with their eyes closed. She smiled slightly. We've had a lot of practice with weapons. The room fell silent again as the instructors absorbed this information. Finally, Drex'kan nodded. You will continue your training here. But I'm also assigning you additional duties. We have cadets who failed today's test. Cadets who lack strength or proper technique. You will help train them. Me, sir? You clearly understand how to maximize physical capability. How to work within limitations. You will share that knowledge. He gestured with 2 arms toward the door. Starting tomorrow. Dismissed. Laura saluted and turned to leave. Cadet Bennett, Drex'kan called as she reached the door. She stopped. Sir? Welcome to the Galactic Defense Force. Your species is going to change everything. Laura smiled. We're just getting started, sir. The next morning, Laura found 12 cadets waiting for her in the training hall. Species of all types. Some who had failed the rifle test. Others who had barely passed. They looked nervous, uncertain. Tesh was among them. The big Valerian gave her a small wave. Laura stood before them, hands behind her back. I know that test was hard. I know some of you think you're not strong enough, not good enough. But strength isn't just about muscles. It's about technique, leverage, understanding your body and what it can do. She walked along the line of cadets. On Earth we have a saying. It's not about the size of the warrior in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the warrior. A small insectoid cadet raised a delicate arm. But we don't have your advantages. We didn't grow up on a death world. No, Laura agreed. You didn't? But that doesn't mean you can't improve. Let me show you something. She walked to the weight rack and selected a bar. 30 kilograms. She handed it to Tesh. Lift this overhead. Standard press. Tesh lifted it easily with both hands. Now, Laura said, shift your grip 3 centimeters to the right. Angle your elbows differently. Engage your core before you press. Tesh adjusted as instructed and lifted again. His eyes widened. It feels lighter. It's not lighter. You're just using your body more efficiently. Laura turned to the group. That's what I'm going to teach you. Not how to be human, but how to be better than you were yesterday. She smiled at them. Now let's get to work. We've got a lot to cover. The cadets lined up ready to train. And Laura began teaching them everything Earth had taught her.